you can stop presenting so that we can start. Hello, everyone. Good evening to all of you, and welcome to this month's webinar. We are humbled to have all of you again today for our May webinar, whereby a little bit of a recap from the last webinar that we had, whereby we were talking about emotional intelligence in general. So we touched the surface of the emotional intelligence part, and we had very insightful speakers. And today we are also joined by our two speakers, one from our last webinar, that is Reverend James Mlali, and another very inspiring lady that will be with us also as a speaker. So without further ado, I would like to welcome our first speaker for today so that we can kickstart with the little time that we have. Bear in mind that you have any questions, you can put them in the chat box and they will be attended to a little bit later. Welcome, madam. Reverend James, I think he's having a problem joining. I request that you kickstart, then we can proceed from there, if you don't mind.
Thank you, Jonas. She has written a message here saying that I'm still not in yet. Are you? I don't know if she's left in the breakout room or not, but I think it would be better to have her here so that we maintain the order. So let us give her a minute.
I think you can send her the link, then she can just rejoin directly. There's no problem.
Oh, do just that. Okay, so I've just sent her. Let me see if she can.
Reverend, is she still having a problem to join?
I think so, because I can't see her here. And how about I give her a call? And
I
if
would
that,
suggest maybe you just
uh-huh.
we continue. Then I can attend to that.
Okay, please proceed.
But you can start us up for the
Okay,
sake, for the interest of time.
Okay. So good evening, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are. Those who are in parts where it's morning, good morning. And those who are in parts where of the world where it's morning, it's night, good night. This is a continuation of a series on emotional intelligence that we started last month. And in the last session, we dealt on the definition and the reasons why emotional intelligence is important. Now, I will not use this time to throw questions to you or start a discussion, but rather I'd like to kind of reflect on what we covered as we set the stage for today's subtopic on tools for improving emotional intelligence. By definition, we said that emotional intelligence is the ability to understand, use, and manage our emotions in positive ways, to relieve stress, communicate effectively, empathize with others, and overcome challenges, as well as diffuse conflict. And that it is something that helps us to build stronger relationships. It helps us to succeed in school and at work and achieve our career and personal goals more effectively. But it also helps us to connect with our feelings, turn intentions into actions, and make informed decisions about what matters most to us as individuals. And the four attributes of emotional intelligence that we saw are self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and it is important. Emotional intelligence is important because it helps us to be successful in coaching teams, managing stress, delivering feedback, and collaborating with others. And studies have shown that it is a most sought after interpersonal skill in the workplace because based on studies conducted by Harvard School of Business, 71% of employers value skills when evaluating candidates for job positions. And so it is what is referred to by the phrase, people don't care about how much you know, but they want to know about how much you care. I think you can remember this. We can remember this phrase, those who were in the session last time. People don't care about how much you know, but they want to know about how much you care. And then we went through questions that we discussed, and through the questions, we drew examples and demystified some myths that are sometimes, upheld by people. And eventually, we concluded the discussion with a note that we will be today dealing with tools for improving emotional intelligence. So briefly, that is my reflection and my summary of what we covered last time. And I'm very happy to see that our sister Stella is already in, and I'm happy to hand over to the moderator and welcome Stella to the session. Over to you, Jonas.
Thank you, sir. Now, I think I would directly like to welcome Stella so that we can proceed.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much, for inviting me to share my experience in this forum. And I want to take this opportunity to really congratulate the Bujari High Impact Leadership Institute to the public. Thank you also for connecting me to Rev Mlali. It's been a while, but also thank you for connecting me to all the audience who have joined. Thank you for joining. Reverend Mlali has provided a great background. Just a little bit of a background about myself. Reflecting on my journey, I have come to appreciate, and I continue to do so, the profound role that emotional intelligence has shaped my experiences and also guided me through challenges. As a child, I took on a parentified role at the age of 19, which entailed, taking care of my siblings, making big family decisions and providing for the family. But also as an adult, of course, I'm raising 4 children. And, a bit of my background, I have taken a number of leadership roles, leading implementation of programs, research and evaluation activities in Tanzania. So with all this experience, of course, I've had a privilege to make mistakes and learn from the mistakes, and I continue to do so. I continue to learn and relearn and unlearn as I deal with different personalities, including, myself. So as Reverend Mlali has mentioned, I think today we're going to dive into the tools and we're going to share experience. I think it's going to be more of sharing what worked for me and what has worked for James Mlali as far as building the emotional intelligence muscle is concerned. And as Reverend Mlali mentioned, in your last session, you talked about unpacking emotional intelligence. You talked about self-awareness, self-regulation. You talked about empathy. I want to believe, I think those 3 main ones. So now we're going to dive into how really, how to really, make sure you're self-aware. What are the tools that can help you you do so. So we're going to go into one by one, and I'm going to share my experience of how I've been able to build those skills, and I will also Reverend Mlali to do the same. So maybe we go straight, starting with self-awareness. I think it's self-explanatory. What is self-awareness? Just really being able to be cognizant of your feelings, your strengths, your weaknesses. So what has really helped me when it comes to tools to help me build my self-awareness? What are the tools that have really helped me? Number one, I will talk about feedback. For me, feedback has been, a fundamental, I can say it has been a very fundamental tool. Yani, in a toolkit, in your toolkit, you need to really have feedback. And there are so many ways that you can be able to get feedback. When you talk about environment, we have a number of tools that helps us, in getting feedback. We have performance reviews. We have 360, which is my favorite because it involves other people also, taking a reflection on your actions and helping you to understand how you are. And there's also employer survey feedback. So those are the ones that are related, work related. But when it comes to, at a personal level, for me, I've gone, beyond work. Just there are a number of tools available online, like personality tools. You can just, Google personality tests. And then when you get in, you fill in a number of questions that can help, you have to fill in, and then it generates, feedback, just trying to provide feedback on your strength, your work habits, your weaknesses, etc. So that has been really helpful. So number one really is feedback as a tool. But I think when we talk about feedback, also it's also very important the feedback. When you get feedback, you're like, really? That about me? So it shouldn't be about that. Really be, you should take it away feedback. You should, take time to reflect from the feedback instead of that you have been provided. So that's one. And then the second one for me, as far as self-awareness is concerned, I think is to have an honest person that can tell you you know, you can share your challenges, and you can talk about how to improve. In other words, I think other people talk, you know, they say coach, you know, and that being held. And I'm going to share that has been. I remember one time my coach, a director, whom I was working with, and you know, would assign task to her, and she just, you know, she wouldn't complete on time. And for me, I was a person who was like, you know, this is the deadline, we have to get to the deadline. So that really disturbed me. And then as a result, you know, I ended up choosing to, you know, take that task away from her and give it to someone else. So as I was sharing my concern with my coach, hoping that my coach would be on my side, but the coach was telling me, did you ever thought of how this person would feel? When you take away that task and you give it to someone else, did you ever thought how, you know, how that person would feel? So that was an aha moment to me. I was like, really, that's really, oh, I haven't had a chance to really sit with her and try and understand what are the issues that are bothering her to not be able to you know, to hit the deadline. So that's just an example of having a person that you can share, and they can be able to provide honest feedback. Yeah, coach. And third one for me, as far as self-awareness is concerned, and this is one of the things that was taught to me by my coach, is really having a coffee time with Stella. You know, just half an hour in a week, maybe Friday, just to have my time alone and being able to ask myself questions, you know, reflecting back, being able to say, okay, Monday there was this incident, and this is how I reacted. You know, maybe what would have been, how was I supposed to react? That really helps me understand what really pisses me, what makes me happy, and it helps me in a, you know, eventually to continue to regulate you know, my emotions. So I would say those are the three things for me that has been very helpful as far as improving my self-awareness concerned. So feedback, having a coach, and a coffee time with myself. Mlali, I don't know if you have anything to share as far as self-awareness is concerned.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for that, those insights, and really very helpful. I think I'll just add a few things. When, you know, dealing with this area of self-awareness, particularly receiving feedback, feedback can be received in other different forms. For instance, students receive feedback from teachers based on how they perform in class or how punctual they are, and the way they respond can either build them or tear them up, you know. So how do you receive feedback? Does it help you to build self-confidence, or does it demoralize you? Now, in terms of teachers, when they do what they do, when they provide feedback, the aim is to build you up. So it is important to reflect, as Stella has said, reflect and see what you can do, how you can act rather than react, so that you can move forward. So in school contexts and university or college contexts, when grades come to you or assessments come back to you, you need to calm down, reflect, especially well, which Stella has referred to. And so for that reason, I really feel that those who are younger in this session, who are still young in school, you know, growing up to become, you know, to join the workforce, you are privileged to learn these things because they will help you a lot in your career development and in your performance in school and academics. Make sure that feedback helps you to build your self-confidence. Even if that feedback is negative. Even if you get the worst grades, in an exam or an assessment, look how you can respond and continue to be confident. Sometimes that feedback can actually direct you to areas of your strength and show you that maybe you were focusing on areas of your weakness. In terms of talents, for instance, I wish also to share my own example. When I was young, I tried sports. And every form of sport that I tried, I failed. I tried soccer. My feet were not coordinated. Even my eyes, when the ball came to me, I closed my eyes, and therefore I could not kick the ball. So, my colleagues would laugh at me, and I would feel very bad. I tried running, athletics. I would get tired very quickly. But only to learn that later, actually my area of strength in terms of, arts was in music. I can write music, I can write songs, I can sing, I can teach, I can play some instruments. So eventually I ended up, refraining from sports because it's not my area of strength, and focusing on music where I am good at. So self-confidence can be built because you cannot have all the abilities, all the talents in the world. They are divided and given to different people at different times. Secondly, in this area, when you come to understand or become more self-aware, then you get the courage to grow and move forward, as well as the motivation to strengthen areas where you can continue to move forward and contribute better to the society that you are around. Thank you. I think I can end up there for this.
Thank you very much,
Thank you so
Reverend, for the insights. So we have approximately 35 minutes left. So I would encourage our participants, if you have any questions that you'd wish to share, you can start sharing them in our chat box. And at this time, I would like to invite the president of Bujari High Impact Leadership Institute to say a word or two and carry on with the webinar. If you are in a favorable environment, you're welcome, sir.
Right. I hope you can hear me, guys. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you.
So
Yes,
I
can
want
hear
to
you.
first of all thank all of you for making time, particularly Stella, James, for agreeing to do the second part of this very important subject of emotional intelligence. So thank you very much for making time, and thank you for all the contributions that you're making. Secondly, I wanted to thank everybody who has made time to join this webinar that I believe personally it's a learning journey even for myself and many others. So thank you very much for making time to join this webinar. And thirdly, thank you for the organizers, so Jonas and your team, for all the logistics that you have made to make this happen. And so I wanted to apologize first that I just landed in Dodoma. I was in flight and so I couldn't join on time. So that's why I delayed. I was to be your moderator. Unfortunately, I delayed. And so I'm sorry for delay, but I do believe you are in good hands with the moderator and also the speakers, very powerful speakers that I know. I've known them for many years. Some of them did provide some learnings to me. So thank you very much. And I wanted to say that many years back, we were talking about intelligence quotient, IQ. And these days, we are realizing that, in fact, emotional intelligence is probably the super way to prepare yourself for future, particularly to manage yourself and also succeed in the work environment, and also relationships that you build. So I wanted to say thank you for all of you, and to emphasize that this is a learning journey. Not one person will have mastered everything as far as emotional intelligence is concerned, but rather we keep learning and learning and learning and learning. And the more you learn, the more it becomes easy for you to manage yourself. When I came in, I had discussion around self-awareness. And today I understand we are talking about the tools and insights that one can use to improve your own and master the emotional intelligence. This is very important subject that I think we're discussing. So basically, when you talk about self-awareness, this is one of the strongest area to think of. And I love the Stella story, having coffee with Stella. So have coffee by yourself, have your own time to reflect on what is it, how is it, what did you do, how did you do it, and how could you do that better. Two things comes out of self-reflection. One is your own strength appreciated, and secondly is the areas that I call areas for personal development. We used to call those weaknesses, and in development world, in the high impact leadership, we do not call them weaknesses anymore. We call them areas of personal development. So you happen to know which area that you need to develop yourself. And for young people that are coming on board on professional level, you should understand that it's a learning journey. You learn every day, every week, every month, every year, and it's a world of improvement and improvement and improvement. So very powerful topic to discuss. And I think I should just end there. Our speakers are Stella and Reverend James. So maybe to be fair, it would be good to allow Jonas to continue moderating, since he knows the initial discussion and I become a participant at this point in time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I believe where we are, Stella, you're supposed to carry on with a bit of the tools, followed by Rev. Then we will dive into the questions as we wind up. Welcome.
Sure. Thank you so much. And thank you, Bujari, for joining us. So we talked about tools that can help us strengthen the self-awareness. Now, another component of emotional intelligence is really self-regulation. After being aware, then you're able to regulate yourself. Again, I'm going to share with you what has been really helpful to me, and James will also do the same. So the first thing for me that I consider as a tool when it comes to self-regulation is being able to practice mindfulness, maybe for lack of a better word, practice mindfulness, being aware of your surrounding, but also without imposing personal biases. And we can also call it flexibility. Maybe we can also call it flexibility. So for me, that has been very important to keep in mind. That has been very helpful for me to exercise, and I'll share some of the examples to reflect that. I remember in one of the organizations I was working, we had a colleague who joined. I mean, from coming from a academic institution, and with academic institutions, like when you're writing a proposal, you talk about a number of pages, 20, 30 pages. So when he joined, and he stayed for quite some time, and he was asked to develop a concept, for potential funding. And so he came up with a 20-page proposal and submitted to his supervisor. And the full supervisor was very, very furious. And, he asked him to write a 1-page instead. And as a result, the person was not valued, etc. So what we are learning from this story is that as you are joining different organizations, as you're going to graduate, for those who are students, you join different organizations, you have to be open-minded, you have to be flexible, because when you're joining these organizations, each organization have different cultures, have a different way of writing, have different way of doing things. So you have to be open-minded, although you're coming with your background, but it's very important to be mindful of the environment, be mindful of the culture, so that you don't end up, getting into conflict, you don't end up being emotionally disabled. So that's one thing I wish to include as a tool for self-regulation. Another thing is connecting with our co-workers. This has been very helpful to me. I will share my example as a leader. Of course, they say, being a leader, it's really lonely up there because you don't get to interact with co-workers. But for me, I make it, intentional process to being able to interact with co-workers, because with that, then you're able to learn things that are beyond, work. So having coffee, having lunch, then you can be able to relate. Even as you're coming back as a team and you have discussions, then it's rare that you end up, having conflict. So I think it's also very important to have that connecting with co-workers. Another thing for me, self-regulation is really to switch to something else when I'm mad. Or maybe when I get angry. So in an event that I receive a news that is really, has disrupted my emotion, what I would do, maybe I would just stand up and, maybe go out for lunch, just to be able to calm down instead of reacting, or instead of having a moment to switch off and do something different for a few minutes and then come back, pause and come back. That has been very helpful in helping me regulate my emotions. Another tool for me, it's think before you speak. And I'm going to share in the chat. I think there's, in think, there's one person who had described the think. Before you speak, ask yourself what you're going to say. And T means true. Is it true? What you're going to say, is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? Is it kind? So considering all that and being able to speak. If you feel like, these criteria are not met, then you may not necessarily need to speak. So that has been really helpful for me to be mindful of what I say. That's that for self-awareness. I don't know, James, if you have anything to add.
Thank you very much, Stella. In this aspect of self-regulation, I would like to add maybe 2 or 3 points here. Just as Stella has said, in the workplace, in academics, in any social environments, if you are not able to self-regulate, then you are into trouble. But if you are able to be mindful and reflect, and then be careful on what to do, when, how, then you are set for success. So in this respect, I would also like to add a point on taking responsibility for your actions. This is very important. Some people have the tendency to blame the system, to blame others, to blame, whatever except themselves. Now, the fact is, when you blame everybody else and everything else, you will not grow. But if you reflect and look at yourself and take responsibility for your actions, whether good or bad, you are set for growth. And that's why in the first point, we talked about asking for feedback and responding well to feedback, whether positive or negative. But also it is important to grow by reading books, learning from others, participating in sessions and seminars, meetings like this, learning from experts so that you get new ideas, you learn about how others operate. There are, for instance, many cultures around the world. There are many ways of doing things around the world. If you go with one way that you know, you may also be causing problems to yourself and to others. You can cause conflict, you can cause stress on yourself. But if you are open-minded and able to learn and inquisitive and looking for opportunities to increase your knowledge, that will help you a lot to strengthen your emotional intelligence. Two more things is you have to cultivate patience. You have to be patient, particularly in things that you don't understand. Be patient. Don't react or overreact. Be patient. Give yourself time. Give others the chance and learn and eventually adapt to change. Whenever you learn new things, whenever you get to be familiar with new ways of operating, then adapt to change so you can not only fit in, but also you can be part of the movement to success. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for the very insightful words that you have. I see that, yes, sir. I can see your hand is raised.
Thank you, Stella, and thank you, James, for the insights. I just want to pick up on the point that Reverend James Mlali mentioned on if you do not self-regulate, you can not only cause harm to others, but you can also cause harm to yourself. So it is important to appreciate that human beings are emotional beings, and that some of the physical manifestation that we see are a result of the emotional flows. And so some of the mental health and physical ill health that we see are a result of the emotions that has not been adequately dealt with. So it is important to talk about self-regulation because that has a direct impact on your own personal health, leave alone the impact that it may have to others, but it may also have the impact to your own personal health. And so as we navigate through the 21st century, it is important to think and talk about how does one self-regulate. Studies that we're seeing shows that 50% of the mental illness in this country of Tanzania, for instance, begins at the age of 14, 15, which means the emotional issue is much more deeper than we're actually thinking. And so it is important to learn these tools and insights so that you're able not only to make impact to the groups that you work with at the workplace or college or university, but you can also be able to live a healthy life. So very important self-regulation for your own health, but the health of others as well. And so the tactics that Stella shared and also Reverend James shared are very important for your own personal emotional health and also your own personal physical health. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So again, I remind each one of us, if you have any question, you can put it in the chat box and we'll continue. In the meantime, Reverend, you spoke about taking feedback positively. Now, I believe that has to deal with the mindset of someone, because if my mindset is taking feedbacks the way they are, that is, if they are positive, then I take it positively. If it's negative, then negatively. So how would you advise someone who has that inbuilt mindset to go about in order to change?
Thank you very much, Jonas, for that follow-up question. Really, it is tough. And it is tough because sometimes our environments do not provide for that learning that we need in order to grow and have the tools to self-regulate and to be self-aware. So the first thing is that those of us who are learning and are open to learning should also be people who are teaching others, especially young generations, to teach them how to respond to feedback positively, even when feedback is negative. Just like I said the other day, you know, that young man who received a 0 in his his paper, a university paper, and went to the chapel and knelt down, thanking God by saying, God, I thank you for this 0, because now I don't have any way to go below this. The only way for me to go is up. It's a mindset, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It is a mindset. He could have chosen to cry. Some people even damage their lives. You know, they commit suicide or they do bad things. But that person, I think, is a very good example. Mm-hmm. So we need to really learn from others. I've learned from a few other people who have been discontinued from universities and how they came back and became successful in life. We have stories of people who have run for leadership positions and were defeated and came back either to run again or pursued other avenues. We have people who have learned to, you know, to be self-aware that just because I'm not like the other person, I'm not bad, right? Because our gifts are different. And that's why teamwork can work. Because in a team, you cannot be all doing the same thing. In a team, people are doing different things. And that's how a team works. So we need to learn, but we also need to teach others. I wish I was taught when I was younger how to respond positively to my failures in soccer and other sports. And I'm glad even today now we are learning that what we call weaknesses are not really weaknesses, but areas of development. And that is a phrase that actually builds a positive mindset in our minds. And it helps us to focus differently as opposed to the way we think that it is a weakness. You know, I think I can be understood. So let us learn, let us teach others, let us help others, let us guide them. Let us not tell children that you are bad, okay? Rather, we can tell them that you have not done well here. You need to, you know, maybe I don't know, I have to learn this language, this positive language. Use positive language. You can do better in this, or you can do better. You have another chance to improve, or you can learn something else, okay? Yeah, things like that. Am I clear? But I'm trying to communicate.
Maybe just to add, just to add from what Mlali has mentioned, I think for me there are two, parts of the coin there. As you mentioned, it's really a mindset. So as we are raising, the leaders of tomorrow, as we're raising our children, we need to instill in them that life is about learning and relearning. and I can learn from you and you can learn from me. So with that in mind, then you are able to receive feedback positively. But then on the other side now, how are you sharing that feedback to a person? That's also very important. It's important to teach and to learn how to share feedback. There are so many ways you can do that. There are sandwich methods that where you can talk about the positive, and then you can talk about the areas for improvement, and you can end up again with the positive. So being able to practice how you share feedback constructively, it can help also a person to receive that feedback.
Thank you very much. Yes, I can see your hand. You can go on.
Thank you. So I do join our two speakers for the wisdom that they have shared. Two things I wanted to say. Number one is that the feedback does not necessarily have to be positive. So it can be positive and it can be negative. And I think your question kind of requires the speakers to comment, how do you support or help or advise somebody to receive negative comments? So my quick recommendation is this one. As you talk about self-aware, I think I need to understand, and one needs to also understand that you are not an angel and you are a human being. And because you are a human being, you can make a mistake today or tomorrow. And therefore, because you're not an angel, if it happens that you have not been able to meet the standards that is required by another person, acknowledge you are not an angel, and then decide that I am going to do better tomorrow because I still have tomorrow. So today is not the end of the world. I still have tomorrow, and what I didn't do well today, I can do well tomorrow. So it's reassuring yourself and understanding who you are and say, I have limitations today. Maybe I was in a bad mood. Maybe it wasn't my best day. I didn't do very well today, but I still have tomorrow and I can do well tomorrow. So number one, I would say, appreciate and acknowledge you're not an angel. You are a human being prone to error, either by lack of knowledge or by any other reason. And therefore, if you receive negative feedback today, it does not mean that you receive negative feedback tomorrow. You can still do better tomorrow, even if you didn't do well today. So that would be my number one recommendations. And number two, it's to appreciate also that the person who is giving you feedback is using a certain lens. So learn what lens is that person using to determine the feedback that you're receiving. And therefore, if you are committed to work with that person, then step up your gauge so that tomorrow or next year, you're able to adapt to the changing environment. And this is what Madam Stella referred to, being able to adapt into the changing environment, to be able, to make impact in the new environment that you operate in. So 2 points that I would like to share. There are 2 questions in the chat, but I would like to respond to the third one. Is emotional intelligence developed? The answer is yes. We develop emotional intelligence as we grow. And Reverend James Mlali says, I wish I was taught when I was young these things. Many of us, we didn't have the opportunity to attend these webinars that you guys are attending. So we are also learning at this age, So you keep learning and learning and learning and learning and learning and learning and learning. And as many as challenges that you face, the more lessons you happen to get from the challenges that you come through. You managing people, they become very tough. You learn how to manage that. So yes, emotional intelligence can be learned and mastered slowly as you grow professionally and also by your age. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We have other total of 3 questions, so maybe we'll attend to those, then we can conclude. How to deal with people who don't like to be advised or be told the truth. This one is not delegated to any speaker, so I guess anyone can answer it briefly. You're welcome.
I'm happy to start. How to deal with people who do not like to be advised or be told the truth. Again, it really requires emotional intelligence skills to do so. Sharing my experience, I think what I would do is to really come up with strategies that can help this person, understand where you're coming from. So it may not be you. You may not need to use your energy. You may want to consider looking for allies who can help you do that. Looking for people who are trustful maybe to that particular person, and then having that conversation with them as well, like them getting into the table and having that conversation. I've had an experience of dealing with working with global projects. I've had an experience dealing with people who are coming from the headquarters who do not know the context, and they're very rigid to change. And using that experience, what I would do really is to come up with a strategy. For example, having a meeting, bringing in allies, maybe someone from the Ministry of Health or someone from higher leadership position, and have that discussion. But of course, also you need to be prepared. Like, you have your facts, you have really studied your whatever it is that you're going to debate, and come up with facts so that you can be able to argue well. Yeah. Reverend, I don't know if you have anything to add.
Yeah, maybe I can add also that it is important to familiarize these people with not only facts, but also codes of conduct. Workplaces, schools, even families have codes of conduct. And codes of conduct provide frameworks for behavior and for operations. And sometimes they also include things like positive motivation and sanctions for, positive motivation for acceptable behavior and unacceptable behavior. It is important to familiarize them so that when they are rigid or when they are not cooperative, they are made aware that if you continue that way, then you can either lose this or you can end up here. Thank you.
Thank you for the insight. So you can see we are running very much out of time. So let's take the last question. These 2 questions from JEP Foundation, I would promise that they will be answered and they'll be forwarded to your emails as well for the interest of time. So they're recorded and they'll be attended to. So let's go to the last question here, that is, how can you cultivate self-awareness and self-regulation in order to improve emotional intelligence? Reverend. I guess Reverend is taking a breather. Madam Stella,
oh, sorry. I didn't I didn't unmute myself. I just wanted to say these are actually the 2 areas that we have focused on in this discussion most. So the person asked the question would probably benefit to go to the recording, because we cannot repeat all of them, and I wouldn't like to summarize too much. We have covered quite a lot of ground on this. Yeah.
Thank you for that. So I think we can conclude. I'd like to welcome, yes, I was about to welcome you, sir. So you can also conclude for us with a vote of thanks. You're welcome.
So I also probably need to go to the recordings, but and the speakers may also correct me. I know there are 4 blocks of tools for mastering and developing emotional intelligence. You have spoken about self-awareness. You have also spoke about regulation. There are 2 more that I know are remaining, and one is the social skills, and the other is the empathy, as some people call that. So I don't know whether we recommend that next month we dive in the 2 others, so we have a complete set of discussion for the tools and insights on how one can, self-regulate to improve your emotional intelligence. And I would like people to see, if you want the next monthly webinar to deal with the next part of the emotional intelligence, please give us thumb up so we know you are interested to learn more. And we will ask Stella again for her availability to continue sharing. We'll also ask Reverend James to continue sharing. So we have a complete set of the tools to improve emotional intelligence. Are you guys interested in the next webinar to finish the next part of the developing your emotional intelligence? Would you say yes? If you are interested in that one, I see 1 yes. Only 1 yes. Only 1 yes. Only 1 yes. 2 yes. I'm looking at, So anyways, so yeah, the couple of yes. We may not be able to answer all the questions, and maybe I'd advise that please send some questions in advance so that the speakers can also prepare to respond to questions as they speak, so we can then deal with emerging question at the end. So may I submit to you that I suggest the June webinar to focus on the next part of developing emotional intelligence. Please don't plan to miss the next webinar, because you'll be building on what you have learned today. And also, if you miss the beginning of the webinar like me, we'll be happy to go to the recording to learn more. Let me take this opportunity again to say that this institute provides insights and tools to the coming leaders. So the young people who are our president and ministers and directors tomorrow, so that they can do much better than Stella and I did. They can do much better than Reverend James and I did, because we didn't have opportunity to learn the tools that we are sharing with you now. Let me thank Madam Stella for your time and preparations. I do not have good words to thank you, but just to know that I'm thanking you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, James, for your time. This is the second webinar you are speaking, and so you still have 1 more to complete your. So these are his years. So our next June webinar is going to finish on the remaining part of the tools for improving your own emotional intelligence. Thank you, every co-learners who has made time to participate in this discussion. They are very important for your own emotional health and your own physical health as well. So thank you very much, those who have been able to make time. Please come with a friend in next webinar, so we can expand our reach and reach more people. Thank you very much. And I wish to say that the webinar is now coming to an end, and I hope to see you next month. Asanteni sana.
Asanteni sana, Wairini.
Thank you.